How'd you get an agent? 4 strategies.
Jesse, how have you been?
I've been...
Great, I'm back, and you're fired.
Number 1, you make a cold approach to a representative. You somehow persuade them to read your masterwork of a script. They love it, they sign you. Done.
I represent John and Kate Pussy.
Strategy 2, someone in the industry recommends your work to an agent that they know. They love it, they sign you. Done. Number 3, you enter a competition. You score very well, maybe you're in the top 10 or something like the Nicole or the tracking board. The agents come to you.
Where are you, Davies?
4, you excel in another area of writing that isn't screenwriting, like maybe playwriting. An agent taps you up and says, I want to represent you. I think you'd make a great screenwriter. By the way, playwrights, television, there's a lot of opportunities there. So those are 4 ways to get an agent. End of video. It doesn't even touch the sides of what we really need to get into, which is, how do you get to a point where somebody in the industry would recommend you as a potential client to an agent? Or how do we get to the point where an agent will look at you and say, I want this person to be on my books. I want to represent them. I want to send their work out. And that's the big, big question. It's not about tactics, though you can do tactical things like entering competitions. I think it's all about having the right career strategy and then using that strategy with tactics to get the best outcome in terms of getting a good rep and then getting your work out there to the buyers. Now, I have to confess, full transparency, I do have some previous in this area. I have signed over the years with 10 different representatives, which makes me sound like a total slut until you take 2 things into account. 1, as a UK writer, at any one time, I've often had a UK agent, a US agent, and a US manager, and an attorney, but that's not included. I was with these 3, agent, manager, both sides of the pond, for almost 10 years. So a combined almost like 27 years with 3 representatives. That's what I say in my defense. The truth of the matter is that it's a dating game.
I'm very nervous.
You're adorable.
No, I am sexy. I am R-rated sexy.
I've just signed with my 10th and hopeful final representative in the history of the world, a manager who I'm very excited about. It's early days, but I think we're going to be a great fit. So I have got representation 10 times, and I'll try and pass on what's worked for me and what might work for you. You know, and I look through my figures of these 10 representatives that I've signed with, and 5 of them came from other producers or directors recommending me to agents. And that, in truth, is the most powerful and effective way to get signed by an agent. That you have to have written something that a producer or a director will go out of their way to knock on the door of the agent and say, you have to read this. And it's often to do with the material, but it's also to do with a lot of other intangibles, which I'm going to get into, which is you are sending out the signal that you're ready to move up to the big game. That you're ready to be a professional, that you can walk into a room of industry people, of producers, of other directors, of studio heads, and that you're going to be able to hold your own. Of the 10 representatives I've signed with, 3 have come from other representatives that represented me who worked with their partners and got me into America, or bizarrely, one American manager got me back in over here. And then I did win a competition with my co-writer, Matt Harvey. We wrote a script called Hyperbaric, set on a narco sub, placed in the top 10 of the tracking board, and a manager reached out to us and said, I want to rep you. The only time I have made a cold, successful approach to an agent was back in the 90s, in the day where you physically wrote a letter and pitched them a log line. The first line of the script was exterior Drakensberg Valley, South Africa, and that was his favorite place in the whole world. But that got him reading and predisposed him to liking the script, which he signed us on. And the least effective way of getting an agent is to bombard people's email addresses saying, oh, will you read my script? It's like the windscreen wiper effect, that if you're chasing somebody, they just move away. But if you pull away and do your own thing, there is a chance that person might follow you. And that's where we need to get to. We need to get to the situation where getting representation is the most easy and natural progression and thing in the world. And it comes because you've done a great piece of work, and it comes because you have a clear strategy and understanding of what your strengths are as a writer. I would say that the single most important thing that you need to be aware of is, what do you want to be known as a writer? It's an existential question. There's a brilliant book about content creation and content marketing by Mark Schaefer, who's this guru. It's called Known. It's fascinating. And he's talking about, what do you want to be known as? And it got me thinking about screenwriting. And there's another sentence that he employs, which is, only I. And this is the secret to getting representative, because only you can deliver a certain kind of script or story that will become attractive to buyers and agents who say, you got to talk to this guy, this is what he does. I wrote 17 years with Matt Harvey. We don't write anymore, but we would write across a variety of genres, mainly action movies, thrillers. And I still, I love action movies. My thing now is spy thrillers, espionage, geopolitical stories, skullduggery. That's what I love. And that's what I want to become known as a writer. I'm fascinated with the spy game, with terrorism, counterterrorism, all the dodgy dealings. So that's my thing. What's yours? And it's quite hard when you start writing because you don't yet know what your thing is. And maybe you've done a thriller and you say, oh, I could really do a break. I want to do something different. I'm going to do a sci-fi movie. Or I've done a sci-fi movie. I want to do a comedy. And I would advise you not to do this if you want to be taken seriously and get signed by a representative. Because it sends out the message that you don't know the business and you don't know how it works. And while I am completely open to the idea that you could write a comedy and a thriller and a science fiction movie, you try and get a rep to sign you off a comedy and a thriller, and you're going to have problems. You're going to confuse them. So I would advise you to work out what your sweet spot is in terms of material, and then pursue that relentlessly. If you are a thriller writer, you can of course write a Taken-like thriller, and you can write a horror thriller because they're sort of on the same part of the color chart. The color wheel, there are some colors that are next to each other, and so it's not such a big leap. When you think about what agents can do for you, they can do two things. They can act tactically, or they can act strategically for you. So an example of a tactical move by an agent knows that producer A is looking to make action thrillers in South Africa. You come up with an action thriller set in Detroit. He says to you, set it in South Africa, go and pitch it to this guy. It could work an absolute dream. That's how you get a deal. Another tactical way that an agent might act, they know that a director is looking for a period political thriller, and you just happen to have one. And the agent says, right, go and see that person, or they submit your script to that director who wants to direct a political thriller. Now, strategic is when you and your representatives have to think about how to place you in the market. Again, you might say, I don't want to be put in a box.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
Just think about this, that if Paramount are looking to adapt a thriller book, they have a list, 20, 30 writers that are approved on their list. These are writers who are known for being thriller writers. That's how they get hired, because they can deliver. Which comes back to my question to you, what do you want to be known as? What is your strategy as a writer? And how do your writing choices play into that strategy? When you are sitting down and saying, what am I going to write next? Maybe try and think what I want to be known as, and how will this script that I choose help to progress this strategy about what I want to become known as. I'll leave you with a piece of advice from one of my 10 representatives. I mean, he's a manager in LA. His name's Jules Ross. He's a machine. He's a force of nature. And he's a bloody good representative. He once gave me a piece of advice, and it was both tactical and strategic. I had a thing, I went through this period of becoming obsessed with collecting movie posters. I burnt out my eyes on eBay, just checking them out and buying them and making offers and just accumulating. And I suddenly realized it was becoming like Gollum with the ring. I just wanted more. I thought, you know what? I need to write about this greed. I'm going to write a kind of Double Indemnity, Maltese Falcon, modern day crime thriller with a twist. It's quite funny, it's quite quirky, it's quite Coen Brothers, about these builders who find this cache of movie posters and then they fall out like in a Simple Plan and start killing each other.
That was an insinuation!
Lou, for God's sakes.
Put the gun down, baby!
Lou?
Now, I think that's a cool idea, but it was unlike anything that Jules had been sending out of our work. And remember, it was not just about what I wanted to write, it was also about my writing partner, Matt, and we were trying to become known for writing certain sorts of thrillers. And this was too comedic, it was too off the wall. Anyway, I'll never forget what Jules said to me. He read this outline, and he goes, Dominic, I'm not going to do an American accent. He goes, now is not the time to be playing with our cocks. Excuse me? You heard me. And we should be writing the things that we can sell and the things that we're known for. I took that one on the chin. I abandoned this passion project of mine. And instead, Matt and I wrote a script called The Bridge, which has been under option pretty well continuously for about the last 7-8 years and had various directors. Has recently become available again, and we're going to have another big push with my new rep. That script did more for our careers than probably any other script we ever wrote. And I would credit Jules Ross as giving us the little impetus to focus on what really mattered. And sometimes that's what you need from a representative. Sometimes you need a missile. Sometimes you need them to make the call and put you in a room with someone. By the way, Jules put Matt and I in the room with Oliver Stone. That was the highlight of my career. That was tactical. How are you going to get an agent? Roll it back. Well, what you're going to do, I would suggest, is understand what you want to be known as. To specialize in a genre which is saleable, which an agent will take a look at and say, I can make some money out of this. Because most agents are human beings.
I am out here for you. You don't know what it's like to be me out here for you. It is an up at dawn, pride-swallowing siege.
They need to feed their families or pay for their big cars and big houses, depending on what really, motivates them. Their biggest commodity is time and where they spend their time. And they need to know that you are worth their time. And part of that is you showing you know the rules of the game. Being somebody that they can vouch for. Call up somebody at a studio or a company on the lot and say, you really have to come and see this woman. She knows what she's doing. Most writers don't have representatives, but don't wait for the representative to come along and then come up with a strategy for your career. You need a strategy now, and you need to pursue it relentlessly, and maybe then you will hit the target once you know what you're doing. I'm rooting for you. I want you to write in the genres that showcase your abilities to the best extent. And I want the agents to come to you. And I want your contacts that you're going to make to recommend you. That's what it takes to get represented. Catch you in the next bit. Scriptfella, out.
Return to the king or exile yourself from this town forever.